right, so week 11 is going to be on medical adherence. We can use the AIDS method to essentially assess medical adherence. So AIDS, assess is going to be the first one. So this is where we're looking for cues. We're determining the patient's medication list. We're doing a brown bag interview. A brown bag interview is, like the name suggests, the patient puts all their medications in a brown bag, brings it to the office, and then we can have a short informal group discussion on their different medications. Because what a lot of patients will do is they'll say, well, I'm taking a red puffer or a blue puffer, and that's so common. But in terms of confirming what that medication is, the dosage, the frequency, and all of those things are very important. That's what a brown bag interview essentially does. We have individualization. So we're going to explore reasons for non-medical adherence. For example, we can take a social history, and we can also, it's very important that we have shared decision making in this process. We can document it. So maybe we document it through ideally an online platform that can be sent out to different health professionals, or even on paper, depending on the rurality. We can educate the patient, so we can provide education about the reason why they should stick to their medical adherence. Other education could include that, hey, maybe you're not having symptoms, but that doesn't mean you stop the medication. That's a very big misconception that a lot of patients have, which is that they don't feel any symptoms, therefore they think that they don't need to take the medication anymore. However, this is not the case. And then we can also supervise them, which essentially just maintaining continuity of care and maintaining these steps as needed. Now we're going to talk about placebo versus nocebo. So placebo is where we have a perceived benefit from, let's say, a sugar pill. I feel like most people understand placebo. Nocebo is quite interesting. So it's actually where we have a perceived negative symptom from a medication. And the most common sense example that I could think of is generic versus brand names. So usually when you give someone a brand name medication, a generic medication, they think that it's not as good or not as effective as a brand name, versus the only real difference is just the branding of the medication, and usually doesn't have anything to do with the actual molecular structure of the medication. So polypharmacy, I think this comes up as a definition type question, but really could come up as anything. That's not the point. The point is just to understand what it is. And it's just the concurrent use of multiple medications. 5 or more prescribed medications is the definition of polypharmacy. Now, how can we reduce barriers? We can include the PBS safety net, PBS co-payment, and QMAX. These are just some examples, and they will change year on year. So they could be different for your year, but hey, that just means have 3 examples and understand what they are. For this, the PBS safety net is just how most people are going to be paying some cost of the medication until a certain buffer has been hit. And then the PBS copayment is that you're paying the medication up to a certain amount, but the government is covering the rest of the cost of the medication. And then the QMAX program is that you essentially just have a wide range of support services that are there to help people with medication adherence. These are, again, summaries, and it's very important to go into the GLS as to real-life examples of how we can use these medications, but that's just a summary. Whole medicines review is another thing we can do on top of the brown bag interview, and it is free when bulk billed, and the pharmacist essentially will visit the home to review medication. Maybe the patient doesn't put all the medication in their brown bag, or they have certain they're a person with disability, or they have certain barriers that are in place that make it better for a whole medicines review, or they're a sole caretaker, they may have a language barrier. Whatever it may be, this option also exists.